friends, how are you all? Welcome back to part 2 of books this week. I hope you have watched the part 1. If you haven't, please go and watch it now. Well, people who have been here before, welcome back, and people who are new, welcome. This is Mansi from Readers and Creators. If you don't know, let me tell you in brief what this segment is about. In books this week, I tell you about all the books which has been published, launched, or came into new editions recently. I have been reading English newspaper book reviews, and this idea just came into my mind because I don't see these books on Bookstagram or BookTube. Well, without any further ado, let's move on to the books. I will tell you about 6 books today, out of which 5 are non-fiction. So the first book is Dance to Freedom, From Ghungroos to Gunpowder, written by A.K. Gandhi. Now, if you have watched Hira Mandi recently and liked it, then this book will interest you even more, because this book is a historical exploration of 5 women who were Tawayefs, or in another language, Nautch girls, during the British time. Now, at that time, these women were given a very higher position in society. So this book explores how they were regarded as a good courtesans who teach etiquettes and manners to other people. But when British rule came to India, they reduced and disgraced these women only to prostitution and sexual objectivity. The book ends with this dilemma, or we can say this anger or aggression about how from that era till now women are still fighting for their reproductive rights and for their sexual liberation. Next book in the segment is Why We Die, The New Science of Aging and the Quest for Immortality, written by Venki Ramakrishnan. Now, this book talks about life and death. It's a non-fiction, and it just did a massive communication or philosophical viewpoint of what life is and what death is, and how we are always scared of death. In current times, when death has been more uncertain than it has been before, like young people are dying from different circumstances and varied reasons. So this book explores that, talks about that, and try to find a reason for that. Now there's one actor, American actor, W.C. Field, who was dying, who was in his last period of life, and he said one line that we all are trying to find loopholes in how not to reach that final aspect of death. But this author, Venki Ramakrishna, talks about 2 aspects where people on one aspect are trying to live a longer life. They are trying to find loopholes or trying to remain immortal. But on the next part, he also talks about how the concept of immortality has been faded with time. Like nowadays, people don't want to live a long life. They want to live a content life and just go with time, right? So he just balanced out those 2 aspects. Third book is the first fiction book of this segment, Fervor, written by Toby Lloyd. This is a horror novel, and it talks about our connection with our ancestors and future generations. An author talks through a story how if we are not keeping our ancestors happy, it is affecting our current life. And as much as superstitious this sound, I do think that this holds a solid viewpoint. Well, in this story, there's a woman whose granddad, who was a Holocaust survivor, died. Now, there's a whole historical reference to Holocaust, how he survived that, and then how only because he was part of the Holocaust, every generation after him is affected. Also, one line is there which is written by an author itself, Zdzislaw Milosz, that's the author name. He wrote that when a writer is born into a family, the family is finished. I love that line, and I can't even begin to express how true that line is. Yeah, this is a fiction and horror. I am not a fan of horror genre, but I am so interested in this plot. So I might get this book and read it, and I will give you a book review as well. Next is an anthology, Eliminating Words, an anthology of classical Indian literature written by Srinivas Reddy. Now, this book is a comprehensive survey of ancient India through different literary traditions, through different Indian language. You got it? Like not just limiting it to Hindi or English, but talking about all the literary traditions throughout the ancient India in every language. This book is called Important Book by Salman Rushdie. So this already holds a stronger aspect. Next book is a biography, Kamal Hassan, A Cinematic Journey, written by K. Hariharan. This book talks about achievement of Kamal Hassan, how as a star kid from a very young age, he explored the variety of roles in his cinematic life, and roles which other actors were not willing to do. He even did that. From becoming a woman in Chachi 420 to playing a kid role in a small movie. All that has been talked about in this book: his life, his thoughts, his achievements, and most important, his movies. Last book in the segment is Unashamed, written by Neha Bhatt, who is a sex and trauma therapist. This book is a self-help, motivational, and guide kind of book. She talks about how to reach that level of self acceptance and sexual liberation, and how we can just deep dive into our course to find our truest selves. So, this is typically a self help book, but it talks more about your sexual identity instead of your mental or spiritual identity. So, that were the 6 books. I hope out of these 6, you might be willing to read one or two, and I might read that horror novel. I'm not sure yet, but I will. So yeah, and keep reading, be happy, be safe. We'll meet you on next Sunday with part 3 of Books This Week.